Traditional history often paints the birth of the early church as a series of public debates held by men. We imagine figures like Peter and Paul standing in the center of a Roman forum, preaching from high platforms to massive crowds. But look closer at the actual mechanics of the movement, and a different picture emerges. The spread of these radical ideas was financed, sustained, and sheltered by women operating on the social margins. Philippi was a major Roman colony, yet it lacked a traditional center of religious power. Jewish law required a quorum of 10 men to establish a synagogue, and in this strategic city, there simply weren't enough men to meet the quota. This exclusion from official institutions forced the builders of the movement to organize elsewhere. They met in overlooked spaces, far outside the city gates and the walls of power. Without an official building, a small group of women gathered by a quiet riverbank on a Saturday morning to pray. Among them was Lydia, a woman from the city of Thyatira who dealt in purple cloth. In the ancient world, purple dye was extracted from sea snails at a massive cost. It was a luxury good literally worth its weight in gold. Purple was the color of emperors and senators. By trading in this high-end commodity, Lydia had built herself into a wealthy, independent operator. She ran her own business and headed her own household in a world dominated by men. Yet she chose to sit in the dirt by a river outside the city gates. Her presence there reveals a spiritual hunger that her significant commercial success had not yet satisfied. When the Apostle Paul arrived and began to speak, the message resonated immediately. The account describes it simply: the Lord opened her heart to respond. Lydia's response was physical and immediate. She and her entire household were baptized in the river right then and there. She then leveraged her wealth for the mission. She insisted that Paul's ministry team use her estate as their operational base, effectively funding the logistics of their work. This was a strategic deployment of her resources. By housing a radical, persecuted group, she provided the physical security this movement required to survive its infancy. For Lydia, spiritual transformation meant a shift in her balance sheet. She converted her private economic success into public community infrastructure. This choice was dangerous. Hosting these outsiders in a major Roman colony meant absorbing significant political and physical risk to her business and her safety. The scholar Bell Hooks offers a framework that helps us understand the weight of Lydia's hospitality. Hooks defines the home place as a site of resistance. It is more than a residence. It is a space where marginalized people can heal, organize, and reclaim the dignity that the surrounding culture denies them. Lydia used her empire-funded wealth to build exactly this kind of sanctuary. Her house became a protected zone where organizers could operate away from the eyes of systemic oppression. For those living under the thumb of an empire, offering physical shelter is a high-stakes act of political defiance. The durability of this sanctuary was tested when the state finally struck back. Paul and Silas were arrested, beaten, and thrown into prison. When an earthquake later opened the prison doors and they were released, the leaders faced a choice. They needed a place to land while the authorities were still on high alert. They didn't flee the city. They went straight back to Lydia's house to meet with the believers. Their return to her living room establishes Lydia's home as the community's primary refuge. In the wake of a violent crackdown, her door remained the single point of safety for a community in crisis. Lydia's home became the first house church in Europe. This living room birthed the community that would later inspire the biblical mandate to find strength and joy through Christ. We see Lydia's legacy in the Black women who operated behind the scenes of the American civil rights movement. They were the ones who financed the buses, cooked the meals, and organized the local networks that kept the movement moving. And we see it in the women who are the beating heart of local churches today, quietly funding the ministry, running the food pantries, and opening doors to the vulnerable. This history redefines the purpose of personal success. Your income, your professional skills, and your home are tools. They are the specific resources required to transform a private life into a shared shelter for others. Changing the world does not require a formal title. It requires an open heart, surrendered resources, and a door that stays open for those who need sanctuary.